Hi, I'm Relja, welcome to BikeGremlin. If you're looking for a bicycle that is simple, reliable, durable and easy and cheap to do maintenance on and that rides well, this video is for you. I have already made a few videos where I've discussed the pros and the cons of many modern cycling industry patents, and in this video I will show some bicycles that I've assembled from the parts that I chose. I will discuss the pros and cons and what I use, which is the most honest recommendation. As usual, you will have to put up with my Slavic accent and with background noise. We have some construction building in the neighborhood, and we might have to cut this video into many short pieces during editing. So let us begin. These are the basic bullets that I will go through, and they will be visible in the video's description and in the timeline when you hover your mouse if you're looking on a computer. The introduction where I've discussed who this is for video, the cheapest option and some caveats, the less cheap threadless fork options and some caveats, and I will go through the component costs with a bit of luck and if we have enough brakes during the construction noises. Let us begin. This is probably the cheapest option that you can find if you're looking for a reasonable no-nonsense bicycle. You can get these for a very low price or even for free and get them in a riding condition with minimal expenses. There are options with 26-inch wheels, steel mountain bikes, the old ones from the 90s, and those can be made into very high quality bicycles that you can do anything on them. Very durable, very reliable, and they can ride surprisingly well if you find good quality. For example, we can see that this frame has the lugs, which means that you can use thinner tubes of higher quality, just put them into a lug and then braze or use molten brass or silver to connect the tubes instead of using thicker profiles that you can weld. This is a more complicated procedure, more expensive, but they used to build them like this. I will later, if I don't forget, discuss how it's done today. So this is a very, very nice riding frame, and all these old frames have two caveats. The first one is the bottom bracket. Make sure that the bottom bracket is British threaded standard. I have article explaining threaded bottom bracket standards. I will put it in the video's description. So check out the bottom bracket. If it is Italian or some more exotic, you will have problems finding bottom bracket cups and bearings, and that's the problem. If you find the British standard one, you can use even modern Holotech 2 Shimano cranks and bottom brackets or square taper. The other caveat, which is even more risky, problematic for me, is the quill stems. Most of these bicycles come with quill stems and have 1 inch in outer diameter forks, the steer tube diameter, that's what I'm talking about. And so the problem with quill stems is this one. This is a quill stem, this is what I'm talking about. So this one bolt, when you tighten it, it pulls on this little bottom thingy, and when it gets a bit to the side, it increases the outer diameter and keeps it locked against the tube's inner walls, and that's what keeps it in place. Only at the lower spot, this one, the top end can wiggle, and you can often even feel it and notice it in the top section. And in case that either the bolt fails or that this thing crumbles and the threads strip, your fork will become disattached from your steer, from your handlebars. And that is why while this can work for my city commuting because we have separate bicycle paths and everything is flat, I do not feel comfortable riding a bicycle with a quill stem on descents, riding fast, riding off-road or in heavy traffic. Your choice, your life, but that's I think that these are not reliable. With modern threadless stems, you have 2 pinch bolts holding the stem against the steer tube and 4 bolts holding the handlebars, so either of those bolts failing you can see, stop in time, fix it, and if you see any cracks on the steel or aluminum stems or handlebars, you should inspect them regularly and replace them. So that's a lot safer option. So this is the downside of the cheapest option. And so that leaves us with the frames that have a thicker tube, because in theory you could source 1-inch tube that is 1-inch fork that is threadless and mount the matching how do you say, stem on it, but and also find the bearings for that standard. But those are very exotic, very difficult to find, and I can only find those nowadays as some exotic retro, often made of carbon fiber or similar, so it's not widely available and easy to source, and in practice I can forget about that conversion. If you can source that, then you have a great bike for a relatively small amount of money. If you cannot find that, then you need to find a decently reasonably built frame with a threadless stem that is no nonsense. This is a very good example, and what is beautiful about this frame is that it has cable or housing stops brazed, welded onto the frame. That creates extra costs comparing to just drilling holes so that you can put internally routed housing, which is nonsense, highly impractical and similar. It has mounts for down tube shifters, it has mounts for front and rear racks, and this distance, the chainstay length is 45 centimeters roughly, so you are somewhere in the middle of the two wheels, which makes it very nice to steer and very comfortable. And it has all the needed mounts for all sorts of gadgets that you might need on a bicycle, and you can, or if you don't want, you don't have to use them. It has mounts for V-brakes. Here with the drop bars I used some mini V-brakes, but you can also use flat bars and normal size V-brakes. It has room for wider tires and mud guards, so you can build whatever you want with this bike. You can make it super light to ride really fast, or you can make it like a touring or a commuter bicycle. You can do whatever you want. These kinds of frames are now next to impossible to find. When I was looking for another frame to build a commuter bicycle on it, just to not forget, in this case you can see that the lugs were used for the forks. I haven't washed this bike, nobody is perfect. These are lugs are used for the forks, and that's good, but all the other things, all the other connections are welded. So they used a bit thicker tubes and a cheaper model of production, and it's next to impossible to find 1 1/8 of an inch headset, so for the threadless forks that you can find these days, and to find a frame that is made of steel and with lugs. They are usually welded or made of aluminum or carbon fiber. So that all has its pros but also its cons. So the choices are not very, you don't have too many choices. Another beauty of this frame is that it has the standard diameter tube, so you can mount even with a shell, with a clamp mount for down tube shifters if you like down tube shifters, and you can mount front derailleurs that are generally easy to source, even used with standard clamps. And it has the hook for the rear derailleur, of course, standard mount. Now if we go a bit forward in technology, which is for the end user 2 steps back, we have this frame. This is made by MTB Cycletech. This one is New Albion model Privateer, and this one is made by a company called MTB Cycletech. Amar is the name of the model. The quality of welds is excellent, and the painting and the rust protection of this frame is unmatched based on anything I've seen before. It's really good, but where did they cut corners? First, you can see that the housing is routed all the way. They didn't bother to weld or somehow mount housing stops. They just drilled holes and threaded threads for screws, and they use this nonsense. And in my experience, this often creates problems, because if you want to ride in the winter or in the mud, this full length housing does not prevent water from entering. It just prevents it from drying out, and that creates a lot more stuck cables. You need to replace cables and housing more often, and stiffness of the whole system is lower, because when you put housing stops, the whole tube is a lot stiffer than even the stiffest housing that you can find. So in my opinion, that is nonsense. That is downside. Nonetheless, the chainstays of this bicycle are not super short. It works well as a commuter bicycle, strong, simple, durable, but I would say that the black bicycle rides a bit nicer, even though neither of these two frames are the best steel frames that I've seen. This one looks, I have no idea what manufacturer it is or anything, but it rides somehow a bit softer. It is less stiff, so if you want super fast times on races, it's not for you, but for everything else it's quite okay. Though it's too small for me, so it's used on special occasions. It's not very attractive to thieves. I can lock it anywhere. And so those are some pros and cons. So this one is a bit of a step back compared to this one, and the black one is in some terms a step back compared to the old technology with lugs used and thinner high quality tubes. Of course, the savings in production are not always passed to the customer. Companies are looking to make more profit, so it's you end up paying a lot for something that's cost cheaper to produce. A lot of money goes to advertising, paying YouTubers to praise your products, and and so on and so forth. So sponsoring racing teams and whatnot. And now I wish to discuss the components. If you wish to build yourself a durable, reliable bicycle, things can get surprisingly expensive. I've calculated and added the costs for this bicycle, and I will list them all right now. But first I want to mention the biggest problems. If you wish to find good high quality friction shifters, it's next to impossible to find them new. And the same goes for down tube friction shifters. It's very difficult to source them, even when I look online in foreign countries, even in the United States, but especially in Europe. In my country, you can forget about it. You can find used, and whenever I see those being sold used online, I try to get some spares and to build bicycles for my friends using those, and to have some backup spares in case some of mine get stolen or I manage to break them somehow. The same goes, for example, for these brake levers. Shimano no longer makes these. No manufacturer, as far as I know, makes levers that are this good and this stiff. And these are made so that you can work with both normal V-brakes and with road bicycle calipers if you move this anchor point a bit further in, so that they pull less cable per travel. So that's lost technology. No one wants to make this in this quality anymore. So that's one of the downsides. But now with those major problems I've mentioned already, I also want to touch upon this model of rack. This is made by Topic, and they no longer make the version with this, and this makes it very convenient to mount a backpack using just a strap, and it holds securely. Without that, you need to spend a lot more time and effort to hold your backpack securely on your rack if you don't want to use panniers and you want the practicality of walking around shops with your backpack and then going back to your bicycle. So now finally to discuss, if you wanted to build yourself a reliable bicycle, this one is pretty universal. You can use it as a gravel bicycle, as a touring bicycle. If you add some full length mudguards, it can be a great commuter. And let's see how much this all costs. Here I have it all written down, so let us start. The frame, the fork, and the handlebars, I got those used. And I paid about 100. These are the prices. All the other prices except this starting point is when I googled what it would cost for me to buy it now. The lowest prices I could find, but at this moment, from different shops. I did use mostly used components that I already had at hand, but that's not realistic. If you are not a bicycle shop or a bicycle mechanic, you will be buying new And if you have luck to source something used, that's great. But I listed new prices for everything except the frame, fork, and the handlebars. They cost about $600 if Google and the website of the manufacturer are to be trusted, but they cost me $130. In total, I bought them used. They looked awful, but they had no cracks, so I could use them and build this bicycle. So apart from that, I will be starting with that point, which is very small compared to buying new. Let's go on. This stem costs an arm and a leg at a regular price. It's made by Ritchie. Model is Comp Trail. This is 80 millimeters long and it costs about $30 new. The headset cups, these are made by the company called Force. They cost about $15. So we are already at $175. The brake levers are Tektro model RL340. They cost about $50 new. Front light is made by German, I may not pronounce it correctly, Bushmiller, Lumotech IQ SYO Premium Senso Plus LED front light. That's the whole name. I wrote it down. It cost about $60 new in Germany. The front hub, the dynamo hub for the light, is made by Shimano. So this is DH/3D37/QR for the quick release, which is more practical for me. So with that added, we are already at $375. Rims are locally made in Serbia by a company called Krypton. They are not the lightest, but they are very strong and very durable with 36 holes, 36 spokes. So they were cheap. They cost $20 for both. We are at $395. Spokes, I got cheap no-name Chinese spokes. That's what's available locally. That's what I built the wheels with. They were $15 for both wheels. And I use DT Swiss nipples. And so that cost me about, the 12 millimeter brass ones, that cost me about $15 for the nipples. So we're at $425. The down tube shifters, they are used. I didn't pay for these, and they're next to impossible to find, and you can expect to pay at about $100 if you find them as classic used in good condition, or if you manage to find a shop that really sells that they really work in friction shifter mode. So that's the price I used. Seat post is also made by Ritchie, and a seat post like that costs about $50 now. Didn't write the exact model for this one. This uses the 37.2 millimeter seat post, which is relatively still widely available and easily. So we are now at $675. Bottom bracket is the Shimano Diore or Alivio SM/BB52 model, Holotech 2, about $15. Cranks are Shimano Alivio model FC/T4060 with chain guard, 170 millimeter long cranks, and all the chain rings are made of steel, so this should be durable. And it's a triple crank that gives me a huge range of gearing, and that costs about $50 when you can find it in shops. Pedals are made by a company called Crank Brothers. Model is Stamp 7. They cost about $130. They don't use cartridge bearings, but some proprietary system, so they look super fancy. They are super thin, super light. They grip very well, but I will see how they handle abuse. And I don't like the idea that I cannot replace the bearings. So that was probably not the best purchase that I ever made, but we'll see how they last, and I will make a video on how to open and re-lubricate them and service them, overhaul them. So we are at $870 already. Front derailleur is Shimano Diore model FD/T6000. It's officially made for 10 speeds, but it works very well with this 8-speed chain and an 8-speed cassette, at least with friction shifters. It costs about $30. The chain is made by SRAM Power Chain PC/870 model. It's about $12. Cassette is Shimano 8-speed cassette, about $8, the cheapest one I could find. Rear derailleur is Shimano Deore model RD/M531. It's officially for 9 speeds, but works great with 7 and 8-speed chains. And it costs about $40, so we are already near $1,000. Rear hub is Shimano model FH/M4050. It has a mount for the center lock disc brake, if you wish to use that one. I used the V brakes. It costs about let's see, $25. Rear rack is Topic Uni Super Tourist DX 2.0 model. It no longer comes with that strap, and that sucks. If anyone from Topic watches this and wants my eternal gratitude, please return and start building that model with the strap again. So this one costs about $50 now. It's very durable, very robust, and it has these lower mounts for panniers. Very practical. I can only sing praises to it, except for that strap that is lacking. Rear light is also made by the Germans. Bosch Miller top light flat S permanent LED, $20. It works as a stop light, and it works even when you are stopped for about 5 minutes thanks to some capacitor inside. I hope it is a capacitor, not some just by battery. So it lasts long, it's very good. Let's see. Cables and housing. I buy these in bulk, and if you buy in bulk to reuse for your own use, you can get away with about $20 if you use Shimano housing and cables. It's good quality. I have an article discussing brake and shifter housing and cable standards and recommending models, so I will put that article in the video's description. Kickstand, some love them, some hate them. This is made by some Slovakian or Czech company called KLS. It's available in my city. It costs about $20. It is sturdy enough, it's good, and I like this mounting system, at least for aluminum and steel frames that are not with super thin, super sensitive tubing. And I'll make separate video about why kickstands are awesome for most use cases. Panniers. I made some videos about Ortlieb panniers discussing their pros and cons, but we are already at over $1,000, almost to $1,100 when I add all these costs. So it does add up, and those are, if a manufacturer wanted to make a bicycle like this, they could buy in bulk and maybe get some discounts, but I don't know how many discounts, and I don't know if a bicycle like this is easy to market and easy to sell to people who watch Peloton or mountain bicycle racing and want to get a bicycle like the people racing do, because this is bicycle that is, there's nothing spectacular about it to say or show, but it is very cheap to keep running, because I can fix it in no time. I can get and replace the parts that wear out very cheaply, and that is the main point. So it costs next to $0 to keep running if you do regular service, but it is not cheap to build, especially if you pay the full price, if you're not willing to spend a year looking for discounts, and if you don't make any mistakes when you're shopping for parts because of compatibility. I have a series of articles discussing compatibility and what mixes with what, but anyways, that can be a problem for most people who build their own bikes. And when people ask me to build a bicycle like this for them, it takes a lot of time and effort even for me to source all the parts. So it's usually a winter project that I build over one winter and call it a day. You can no longer find bicycles that are reasonably built like a finished product. At least I am not able. If you have some sources, please share the links, preferably on the BikeGremlin.net forum, so that it can be searched easily and so that everyone can find them. Now I just want to show you another bicycle. Let's move it. This is a bicycle that I got used. I found it on sale, and I built this for my friend as a commuter and ride around the city and to the nearby mountain on weekends. So it is a step-through frame, so not ideal in terms of weight to strength, but apart from that, this one came from the factory to be reasonably built with all normal standard parts that can be easily replaced and sourced, and no nonsense like disc brakes, internally routed cables and anything. So this one is relatively cheap and easy to keep running and relatively simple. It does not have friction shifters, but apart from that, it is something that I would consider to be a very good choice for commuting with the men's frame or a step-through frame, depending on your case and use case and priorities. This is the brand, and unfortunately I no longer see bicycles with this set of components built and sold, even as commuting bicycles or trekking or whatever. So the offers are getting very scarce, and it's more and more difficult to find bicycles like these. But these would be my recommendations and choices. So I hope this video shows you some options and also gives you realistic expectations, because apparently today nothing is cheap unless you're willing to make some bigger or smaller compromises. And that's the whole video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any additions, corrections or questions, please use the BikeGremlin.net forum. I don't want to forget to thank the good people who support my work via Patreon. You can support my work by going to patreon.com/BikeGremlin and set the amount of monthly support that works for you. You can also use the option to join the channel and also choose the monthly amount of support that works for you, so that helps a lot. And that's the whole video. Thank you again very much for watching, and I'll see you in some other video. Cheers, stay cool.